I hope you like 10 at 10s because we got a good 10 at 10 for you today. I'm Matt. Welcome to the 10 at 10 on Tuesday show.
Hey guys, I'm Tim. You're gonna love today's 10 at 10. We're listing 20 trees, so sign up for our weekly email. We're gonna talk about 10 today here on the table. We'll have the full listing of 20 in the email. Sign up for that email, check that email out. You'll get a heads up, so when 10 a.m. hits, you're ready to jump on this thing and get whatever you need to quickly, because some of these trees sell out really quickly.
Guys, you know we've been doing a lot lately. We had that surprise Thursday listing. I hope you enjoyed that surprise 10 at 10. We've also had a sale running. I hope you're taking full advantage of this current sale. These are some of our best prices we've ever listed. I mean, a lot of these are below Black Friday pricing, so definitely check out our current sale we're running. We got a 10 at 10 for you here today with the sale going on though. We got some cool stuff on the table, and let's get into it. What do we got here first, Tim?
Guys, we got the Oolong-du maple. We got Acer pseudosubuldianum subspecies Taxodium.
Say that 5 times fast.
Acer pseudosubuldianum subspecies Taxodium. Acer pseudosubuldianum subspecies Taxodium. Acer pseudosubuldianum subspecies Taxodium. Acer pseudosubuldianum subspecies Taxodium. Acer pseudosubuldianum subspecies Taxodium.
All right, Micro Machine Man. Acer pseudosubuldianum subspecies Taxodium. I'm a huge fan of this plant. This is a cool plant. Guys, this one is a mouthful. We joke about it. We even had a video where we asked, just random employees walking around MrMaple, hey, tell us what this says. And we had a little fun at their expense, but they were good sports. It's a mouthful. Some people just call it that Oolong-du maple. This is an Acer pseudosubuldianum subspecies, guys. Cold tolerant, columnar in its habit. One of my favorite traits about this tree is it is very columnar. I've seen some people selling a Morris columnar. To be honest with you, the species is columnar. It's always columnar. I have an over 20-year-old specimen of this in my garden at my house. It's right up next to my porch because it's one of my favorite fall color Japanese maples, or maples, of them all.
The fall color is yellows infused with oranges and reds, often at the same time. It is, for people who love full moon Japanese maples, this thing is spectacular. And it is a species maple. It's from the Oolong-du Islands, which is an island that's between North Korea and Japan. And this thing is spectacular. It's one of my favorite species maples of all time.
Right.
And the fall color is outstanding. The round leaf is very Acer shirasawanum-like. It looks like the in-between of a shirasawanum and a japonicum. That's really what it looks like on the foliage.
Guys, if I was pressed to say my favorite fall color maple, this would definitely be in the running. It is next level for fall color. It sells out quickly. We've got some great sizes in these for 1 gallons. I mean, these are well over 2.5 feet, 1 gallons. Don't wait on this one. It sounds like a mouthful. You might think, what is this weird species? It is a gardener's dream. That's what this species is. One of my favorite maples ever. All right, next back on the table, we got another one that's probably not going to last too long, guys. We've got Acer palmatum, Allen's Gold.
Guys, check out quickly. This is a plant that will sell very quickly today. It doesn't hold it for you just because you add it in your shopping cart. You have to finish the checkout process. And once you've completed, you've got an order number, that's when this tree is reserved with your name on it. So make sure to check out quickly today on today's 10 at 10.
Now, we didn't name this tree here at MrMaple, but we certainly helped popularize it and identify some of its traits. This is a tree, I got the sign wood from our friend Pat McCracken, and Pat sent me some sign on this. He said this is one of my favorite spring color Japanese maples I've ever seen. So it was selected for its spring color. Now I called him, I'm on the phone, I had a 7 gallon, I'd put it back in a greenhouse and I'd grafted off of it a little bit, and I'd love that spring color. To be fair, the spring color, it can rival anything for the spring color. And I went out there and I started looking at that 7 gallon and I said, I think it's a pine bark. And so I called Pat, I said, Pat, did you know this is a pine bark? He said, I'm not sure it is, but let me check. And he walked out to the original and he said, dang dude, this thing is like Arakawa, Nishikigawa all the way up on that pine bark. It's a little closer to Arakawa and how it buckles. It is a little later to develop than Nishikigawa and Arakawa, but this is the first variation of spring color really on a pine bark style Japanese maple. And it does get some excellent bark to it. The original has bark all the way to the top now. And guys, don't miss out on this. This is a spring splash that rivals any of those. It rivals Ueno-yama, it rivals Katsura, maybe even exceeds some of those, honestly, for its spring color. But it also brings a pine bark quality interest. So the bonsai guys are going to be after this one.
Yeah, this thing's got that bright orange color in the spring. Then it goes to more of that yellow color. And then it's got the pine bark on top of it. It is an outstanding cultivar.
Great plant, guys. Very heat tolerant, too.
So guys, next up, we've got Acer palmatum distichum Hanamatoi. This is a red and pink variegated Japanese maple, selection by Yataka Tanaka in Japan. The name means like a flowering totem. that they would carry around in the Edo period. They still use it today in parades. So it's really like this mop-like totem that hangs down, and it means like a flowering totem. And that's exactly what this tree means. Give this tree some sunlight. You're going to peak up the red colors on this one and really show off the variegation extremely well.
I'm always surprised how much sun Hanamatoi can handle. I've got one in full sun here. Granted, I'm in zone 6B, so we can get by with a lot. I've seen this one in full sun in zone 8, Georgia, and the colors are exceptional. Like, you'll get more dark red with bright pink on it. If you're growing this one in heavy shade, you will get more light green, white, and pink. So get some different color patterns going on in it. As always, when you're getting a variegated plant, we send only the best variegated plants out here at Mr. Maple. So you're definitely going to get a variegated Hanamatoi that we've handpicked for its variegation. We do sell the reversion of this tree as Prince Charming. We always let people know that. I think it's a great plant as well, but these are the OG Hanamatoi with amazing variegation. You're getting a perfect starter plant for these that's going to give you exceptional color all over this plant. Now, you do want to prune out any all dark red branches as those mature. A few are okay, but you don't want them to take over the plant. Kind of like Rainbow, this one is an exceptional variegated plant. People get Lillian's Jewel and Hanamatoi mixed up sometimes because those colors can really rival each other. But this is definitely going to be a lace leaf cascading umbrella. So it's going to make more of that low cascading umbrella shape, typically about 4 feet tall by about 5 to 6 feet wide. Sometimes you get a 5-footer, but it's very low and wide.
Yeah, awesome weeping lace leaf. Got some really good color too.
All right, guys, we got some heat on the table today, a little bit of heat. We got Japanese Princess back in stock for you.
Guys, Japanese Princess is a selection that's one of the very first makawa variants that has color variation. In the springtime, it leafs out pink. It's a selection by our friend and mentor, Talon Buchholz. And the leaf twists on Japanese Princess, which gives it a unique texture, even for being a makawa variant. It's a real slow growing type that can give you some amazing coral pinks to bright pinks, depending on the spring season. I mean, I've seen some colors that are almost hot, hot pink on Japanese Princess. And because of that, this is just an amazing plant.
It's the most popular makawa variant for a good reason. I think we listed it #1 even on our list of Talon Buchholz plants. It is a winner, guys. Japanese Princess, classic in the trade. Another one that can be affected a little bit by the color in the sun. So if you got this in more sun, your color will wash out quicker, but you'll get more intense shades of neon pink. If you're growing it in shade, you'll get more bright pink over top of those blonde undertones. It is an amazing plant. It works great in a container, in the ground, in the conifer garden, especially with all those other makawa variants. I mean, you got to have this one if you're growing a makawa family of trees. We like to coin that term makawa family here. And basically just makawa and its more unique offspring. This one is every bit the star of the show there. It's a smaller tree than makawa, typically at around 3 to 4 feet. Even in 10 years, it's slightly slower growing than makawa. But an amazing small specimen that lights up the garden with high drama, high intensity pinks. And I mean, hard to beat Japanese Princess.
That is for sure. Gee, what is this?
Oh, gee willikers, Batman. What is it?
This is Taxodium Gee Whiz.
Oh, it sure is swell, isn't it?
It is. This is a dwarf witch's broom that was found on a Taxodium distichum by our friend Gary G.
Shout out to Gary G. He was at my wedding. Awesome dude.
And the name Gee Whiz is a play off his last name with G, Gary G.
He needs a Gee willikers. Do you have a Gee willikers?
I don't know. He needs one.
I'm going to suggest it.
This is a dwarf bald cypress, though. And the thing I love about the bald cypress is they can go in so many places in the garden. They go in the drier spots in the garden, but they can also go in those wetter spots in the garden that these Japanese maples can't. So Japanese maples need good drainage. This is a bald cypress. It's a dwarf ornamental bald cypress. You can put this in those wetter spots in the garden and it's going to thrive and do well.
You could submerge this container in a kiddie pool for a month and it'll be thrilled. Bald cypress love it wet. You've been asking for more Dawn redwoods and bald cypress. Well, guys, we got it. Gee Whiz, an amazing selection here. Really brings it. This tree has an architectural charm to it, even when it's out of leaf. They will be deciduous. So I always let people know, these always fool people because they look at them, it looks like an evergreen conifer to some people. These will go to a orangey bronze in the fall right before they drop leaves, so they are deciduous, but an amazing plant to be growing. I think Gee Whiz looks awesome in a container, in a planter. Heck, stick it in a planter, stick it in your koi pond. Keep an eye on it so those roots don't grow through your koi pond, but this is an exceptional plant to be growing. This is the Taxodium Gee Whiz. All right, what do we got next here? Nothing exciting, right? How about Acer japonicum Blush and Beauty?
Guys, this is the first time it's ever been released on Mr. Maple on the website.
I think Brian literally cheered behind the camera right now.
And this is a selection by Ed Shin that has a pink blush, like that rose blush to it, on a large Acer japonicum leaf.
This is the first time these have ever been hitting our website. We have offered them at an open house once before. Blushing Beauty is the perfect name for this tree. I love that Ed really captured that. I actually describe a lot of those japonicums with spring color as blushing. This one is probably the most common and probably, not common of a tree, the most common of that trait and probably the most prevalent of that spring blushing. It holds that red more than the other japonicums. Now you may get greened up a little bit in some hotter zones. Guys, this is really one of the more interesting variant Acer japonicums I've ever seen.
In the springtime when those leaves are just that blushing red, it is outstanding. The new growth flushes in the summer return to that blushing color you can see on some of the new growth. This plant is an Acer japonicum for Acer japonicums. If you're a japonicum lover, you got to have a Blushing Beauty. It's an amazing selection by NJ Acer, also known as Ed Shin.
And don't worry about hurrying to add this one to cart. I doubt it sells out.
That's a complete joke. It's going to sell out fast today too.
These are going to be really popular, guys. They will be gone quickly. So do check out right away with that one. Maybe add things to cart later. I know Blushing Beauty is one a lot of people are after. And we don't jack up our prices here on Mr. Maple. So these are coming to you at a really good price. I hope you appreciate that. And definitely check it out on Mr. Maple today.
So guys, next up, we've got Peve Multi-color. Now, Peve Multi-color is in a similar fashion as Ukigumo. The variegation might not be perfect every single year, but when it is in, it is really in. And it has a white, reticulated, blush variegation that is outstanding.
Yeah, these are pretty green right now. I mean, this June, don't call our office and say you got a Peve one color, because these are Peve Multi-color. These are going to look better in the ground than in the greenhouse. They like to leaf out slowly. I did a whole video on how to get the best color out of your Ukigumo, and the same thing applies to Peve Multi-color. This is a tree named by Piet Vergelt there in Holland. You've seen Peve in front of Peve Starfish, Peve Minaret, and so many classic introductions. Well, this is also one by him. Peve Multi-color, when you leaf it out slowly, can get some intense shades of white. I recommend putting this in kind of a high canopy. I have a high oak canopy, which is one of the perfect locations for my Ukigumo, and that's where I have my Peve Multi-color as well. It's a great way to get this one slowly started if you have a kind of a high shade area, and that'll give you the best intensity. Now, leafing it out with a lot of fertilizer and leafing it out quickly may mute the colors. Even that said, in some hot zones, I've seen this thing leaf out all the way white and crazy colored.
And it's going to give you just outstanding colors when it does, and when it's not, again, it's a Japanese maple that gives you some really good fall colors. So it's a fantastic tree to put out in the landscape, and when it gets on, it's one of those trees that's going to add that dynamic color in the landscape that's unlike anything else.
Awesome plant to be growing, y'all. Definitely check out Peve Multi-color. It can even get some shades of pink in it. All right, guys, next up here on the table, we've got an awesome superhero for you. We've got Green Arrow.
Guys, Green Arrow, it's another Chamaecyparis nucatensis, sometimes called Cupressus nucatensis.
You can argue in the comment section with us below.
You definitely can. This is a weeping Alaskan cedar. What this thing does is it grows upright and weeps down, but it's extremely narrow, giving an excellent vertical interest. It also doesn't provide a lot of shade out in the garden, so if you have more plants around that you don't want to give a lot of shade to, this plant will give you that vertical interest without shading out some of your other plants. But this plant is amazing. That vertical interest is outstanding. I've seen some amazing specimens out at Buckholtz Nursery who named and introduced this selection. And one of the tips I do recommend with this plant is it will sometimes perform make a little bit of a skirt down at the very base. When one's starting to get big, sometimes prune off some of that lower branching, and you'll have more of that perfect upright narrow shape.
Guys, I'm a huge fan of what this one does. I say it a lot. It's going to be my catchphrase. I'm a huge fan. I realize I say it like every video. I'm a huge fan of Green Arrow. I guess its secret identity is Oliver Queen, so we can go by different names here. This is a cool plant, though. This will give you that vertical interest in the garden. I love what it brings. When you get those large ones, I've seen mass plantings of these at Buckholtz, and he has like 7 or 8 of them right there together. And that structure, it's almost like you're standing next to a monument. It has that regal appearance to it that really gives you that vertical interest in the garden, but really provides something that feels, very solemn and interesting. Like you can't go up to these and not be affected by it emotionally, especially when there's a large mature specimen of it. It really just demands that respect in the garden. Very unique plant, awesome interest year round again because this is an evergreen, but really cool to be growing, and a really nice dark green, evergreen kind of texture to it. The color is actually really dark green, which I think plays off a lot of the Japanese maples really well.
Guys, next up, we've got Acer palmatum Filigree, also known as green filigree.
Also known as green filigree lace. Guys, this is a cool plant. You've heard us talk about this one. It's a reticulated lace leaf. We got these grafted up on a little bit of a standard right here. They're about a foot to maybe about 14 inches up on the graft. Great way to grow these because they are slow growing. Give this one some shade and you can really get some of those interesting reticulated veining in this one. I like to tell people when they ask me, like, I like to make comparisons. This one's almost like a grandma ghost X waterfall. So you're getting a lace leaf that has ghost-like variegation in it, especially for providing that late day shade.
The white flecking this has in the early spring is outstanding. If you give it some protection from the hot afternoon sun, that lasts longer throughout the season. The etching throughout the veins of a lace leaf Japanese maple makes this just an outstanding specimen. Excellent for containers, excellent for small spaces in the landscape. This was one of our dad's first 25 cultivars,
right?
And it's still one that I love so much today. I mean, this is another variegated lace leaf, but it's completely different from the Hanamatoi we mentioned earlier. With that reticulated, ghost-like etching throughout each and every leaf, this is a tree that's going to stand out. It's going to be one you're going to love. But like Matt said, give it some protection from the hot afternoon sun. This one doesn't like to have that hot afternoon sun. You can get some burn on the foliage. But this is a tree that's underrated for fall color.
Oh, yeah.
This tree can really give you some really nice shades of yellows to oranges in the fall. An amazing specimen out there in the landscape.
I'm a huge fan of the fall color, guys. This fall color is intense. The leaf is a little bit larger and wider than most of the other lace leaves, so I feel like it's one of the best fall colors because you really get a big platform for all that color. I've had it be neon to the orangey yellow. I mean, really intense shades. Great one for the container garden. You can bring this one back up to the patio. Make sure if you're not getting natural water to water your plant in well. Don't put that saucer of death around the bottom of your pot. Excellent container plant. I mean, this one's going to be a showstopper in every season. You can put it in the ground or in the container, but this one's going to show out no matter where you have it. All right, last but not least, we've got Orange Dream, guys. Orange Dream, last thing on the table we're even talking about here today. Acer palmatum Orange Dream, awesome. Bright yellows, pinks. This one really brings it.
This is one, too, to give it some protection from the hot afternoon sun. But if you give it some sunlight, you can really get some of those blonde highlights that gets this yellow Japanese maple, makes it so amazing out there in the landscape and garden. This tree can really give you some yellows, some bright yellows in a shadier spot and light up those dark spaces. But like I said, if you give it a little bit of sunlight, you can get some of those blonde highlights across this plant that just make this tree outstanding even during the summer. For a yellow Japanese maple, Orange Dream brings it in the spring, in the summer, and in the fall. It gives you some really good shades of like a pink orange to red.
Love this one for its color interest. It's really going to bring so many different shades. I've seen people play around with this one in a container. Don't typically put it in a lot of sun, but if you can play around with it and manipulate that early spring sun, you can actually get some really intense shades of orange on it as well.
Yeah, awesome plant.
Now guys, these are just 10. Don't worry about checking that email. I'm sure we don't have anything else interesting on it. What do you think?
Guys, I've got 10 other plants that are really cool getting listed today. It was a hard choice to figure out
psychology, dude.
Which trees we're going to talk about on today's video, because there's some killer plants in that email. So go check it out and be ready to check out quickly today at 10 a.m. because there's some of the coolest plants. We try to bring it each and every week, and we try to release the coolest plants we can imagine each and every week on this 10 a.m. on Tuesday.
Guys, don't worry about her, and there's nothing that interesting on here. Take care.
God bless.
Have a great day.